let's talk about the hope that sadly gets created by a specific kind of Hoover in a narcissistic relationship. So infidelity is such a common part of the narcissistic relationship landscape. Not all narcissists cheat. Not all cheaters are narcissistic. But probability-wise, when we look at all personalities, narcissistic people are more likely to cheat and more likely to be repeat cheaters. Remember, narcissistic folks get supply from cheating. It pumps up their grandiosity. They feel like they're a player. They feel entitled to it. They feel very little empathy for the people being hurt. Narcissistic people are selfish and impulsive, and they do what they want. You get lots of supply. It's an easy go-to for them. Interestingly, significant proportions of folks on dating apps and on Tinder, we find, are married or in relationships, way more than you'd think. And we don't have this data yet, but I'm willing to take the bet that the subset of folks who are on apps or on hookup sites while they are still in relationships are probably in the narcissism neighborhood. Narcissistic folks are also more likely to gaslight you about cheating, telling you that if they're caught, that you're the one who's crazy for checking their phone, or you're the one who's crazy, period, etc., etc. You know the drill if you've been through this. So not only are you hurt from the breach of trust in the relationship, but you are also harmed by being manipulated and doubted at a particularly vulnerable time for you. Nobody would ever call a narcissistic person courageous. So the thing, and sometimes they do, but they're not right. So the thing that is needed to repair and heal, you need them to admit to what they did, to take responsibility and not blame you for it. That's never going to happen. So narcissistic relationships after infidelity happens never really heal. But there's a problematic wrinkle that can get created by the narcissistic cheat. And that is the narcissistic future fake and the promise to be better after they're caught in an affair. Now listen, this may not be true in your case. It's not an absolute. But I liken it to people who get caught speeding or driving too fast in a car and get a ticket or a traffic violation. By the time you get a ticket, trust me, this is not your first time driving fast. People always drive fast, and then one day they finally get caught. In most cases, when you finally catch the cheat, they've been cheating, maybe for a while. And especially in their sort of sexy digital cheating setups, they've been doing this for a while. They've done it before and not gotten caught. So the odds that when you catch someone cheating or betraying, that it's the first time that they've done this, on average, no, never. But it takes time and you finally catch them. The interesting thing about cheating or infidelity is that it is one of those things that it's on a lot of people's no-fly list for relationships, especially in narcissistic relationships. It's interesting. No matter how toxic the relationships, no matter how soul-sapping it is, how heartbreaking, manipulative, gaslighting, invalidating, people will say, I know, this relationship's not great. And they'll do all the trauma-bonded justifications. And then finally will say, you know what? If they cheat, I'm out. That's the last straw. And for some people, it really is. They endure a bunch of terrible stuff. The person cheats and they leave. But for others, if you aren't ready and then the cheating happens, I got to say, you're in a really precarious spot. And that precarious spot is the infidelity hoover. So the story would be this. There's a narcissistic relationship, which is generally toxic. Sometimes it's fine. You aren't ready to leave yet, or you don't even quite get what's happening, though you may not get it now since you're watching this video and you're watching stuff on this channel. Or you may be so practically or culturally or financially or religiously stuck in it, money, kids, stigma, all that stuff. So you catch them. It's clear that your partner was being shady. Maybe they were literally having an affair, an emotional affair, a sexting affair, whatever. You catch them. They gaslight you, they deny, and then maybe you have the goods on them. And then there's nowhere for them to run or hide, and they cop to it. They blame you a little, and then in some, not all, but some cases, they might come back with their tail between their legs and sort of apologize. maybe even fall on their sword. Baby, I'm so sorry. It was such a crappy thing to do. I was stupid. I was being a jerk. I need to grow up. It was just talking, baby. I was feeling down at work and I was being stupid and you deserve so much better. And I can't believe I did this to you. And I pray you give us a second chance. I pray you give me another chance. Baby, I could be better. Almost losing you has taught me how important you are to me. Watch me, baby, watch. I'm deleting her number right now. I swear I'm never going to get in touch with her again. Let's go to therapy. Let's go to Hawaii. I will make this up to you. Watch me. Look, I'm shutting down my social media account right in front of you. Now, if you had a tiny little Dr. Ramani sitting on your shoulder, I would be rolling my eyes and whispering future fake into your ears. But then many of you would just knock me off of your shoulder because despite it taking this awful, terrible, hurtful, invalidating, maybe even humiliating thing to happen, you are finally hearing for the first time in a long time what you have been hoping to hear in this relationship. It takes you back to the beginning, when they would express to you that you are their great love and they never felt this way before. And now, after taking you for granted for so long, they are telling you that they never want to lose you, ever. Now they finally learned because they're about to, oh no, I can't lose you. And they might even throw some love-bombed goodies in there. Let's take a trip together. Let's have a date night. They may even buy you some cheating jewelry. I know some women who have boxes full of it. Diamonds for the first affair, lovely bracelet from the time they cheated in Las Vegas, an eternity ring. Oh, the irony of that after the 3-year affair they had. And men are not the only ones who cheat. For others in these relationships, it may be whatever the thing you want them to be, they say they will show up as. And you know what? During this infidelity Hoover, they do show up like that for a minute. It's Love Bomb 2.0. But with this twist of more intense, because they are telling you how they made this terrible mistake and did wrong by you and took you for granted. And while they aren't saying it, but because they did that, not just with the affair, but with everything else, it can soothe you about the multiple things that were going wrong in the relationship. And hearing these things that you've been wanting to hear in this relationship for a long time, you may put down that line in the sand you had of, if my partner cheats, I'm out of this relationship. You might think like, oh, maybe not. You may even be struggling with, am I really going to break up a family because he just sent a few dick pics? Am I really going to start dating again because she was talking with some person online? You start doubting yourself because that's what narcissistic relationships do to us. Hell, you may be pregnant. You may have just bought a new home. You may have just moved across the country. You may have just quit your job. And all of these practical factors make blowing it up seem more impossible in the face of an infidelity. And of course, the chorus of enablers may also show up. Oh, honey, this happens sometimes in marriages. It was nothing. Oh, your dad cheated for years and I stuck around. Or look, she's trying. Or look, he's taking you to Hawaii. I love how the idea of a gift or a trip is considered an equivalence. Betrayal trauma equals 1 trip to Hawaii. I have to tell you this. I think if someone's trying to give you a week in Hawaii off an affair, I think they're getting off cheap. That's not how that currency conversion works. It can feel like the power balances after you catch them in an affair and they come back with their hat in hand. Remember, narcissistic relationships are all about power. And there can be this misplaced sense of, well, now perhaps they owe me and they have to behave better and they're on watch. And it creates that sense of now the power is more in balance, and that idea that now there is more balance and the narcissistic person has to be better. It's not sustainable. They may be better for a minute and it's going to be very transactional. The vacation, the gifts, the few months. And once you are back into a routine that feels familiar, they're going to go back to being them. Narcissistic people know the right way to show up. They just can't be bothered. But they can be really good for sprints and short durations to get what they want or need. Relationships should not be about power. That's already the faulty premise of the narcissistic relationship. But when you are in one of these relationships, the narcissistic person, whether through manipulation or status or fear or gaslighting, seemingly holds the power. So the perceived shift that can come when they have to be contrite about their bad behavior, well, that can be seductive in its own right. So the confusion of the relationship, of the trauma bonding, and now of being betrayed, all of that altogether can be quite overwhelming, especially if the infidelity hoover kicks in. Because the things they may say after they get caught in an affair, that stuff can often really land hard because it often means that they're choosing you again. Someone saying, I strayed, and boy, did I learn that I had everything with you. Being chosen or not chosen is often a core wound, especially for people with narcissistic parents. And it's often a very effective hoover. I'm choosing you over the affair person. Sometimes people who are falling into the infidelity hoover, especially if they told other people about their partner cheating, will not tell those same people that they may be considering going back into the relationship. So that means that the early days of the infidelity hoover can feel like a secret affair that you're having with your narcissistic partner. So maybe you did kick them out. Maybe you moved out. And now here they are courting you again as part of the infidelity hoover. But you keep it secret because you may feel your own shame about it. And sadly, that's a little exciting. And especially for the narcissistic person for a minute, who clearly may enjoy the lie and the sneaking around. But before long, they will want the world to know that they're back in. Not only does it save face for them, it restores their sense of control and belonging, which it matters to narcissistic people. But as it happens, you may even isolate from those same supports you talked with, and where you now feel a little ashamed because now you're going back. So now, once again, you're the one who's more isolated with less support. But the problem is this. When the infidelity hoover is with a narcissistic person, the one thing that's not going to change is their personality. They may either get better at cheating and sneaking around, or even if they don't go there right away and start cheating again, the relationship goes back to business as usual. The digs, the lack of attunement, the devaluation, the manipulation, their selfishness, the gaslighting, you know the drill. The infidelity hoover was done to get you back into whatever function it is that you serve for them. Maybe they like the convenience of living with you. You make dinner, you do the things. Maybe they like having a long-term partner. They like what it looks like. They like the dog you have together. They like the public face of being married or engaged. And in some cases, which feels awful, they just don't want to go through the expense of a divorce. And they were too stupid to read the fine print on the marriage contract, which, by the way, is not a thing because it's not provided to you when you get married. And then they open their eyes to that they would have to fork over half their stuff, which they don't want to do. And hoovering you back is cheaper than giving up half their stuff, which they don't want to do. In the early days, especially if you have been feeling ambivalent about the relationship, when they come back on this infidelity hoover, you may spin it as, okay, we're growing after this fall or after this rupture of trust or some positivity stuff like that. The narcissistic person may even use stories like, well, my dad always cheated. It's all I know. Or they'll claim something like being a sex addict, but they've never been formally evaluated. You may believe, well, it took this, but now they see me. They may not finally see you, and sometimes all you can do is go through this hoover to see that they don't see you. Because like all love bombing, the infidelity love bombing hoover, it fades, and whether you catch them in another affair, or they just simply go back to treating you like they always did, You may even want to say, wait a minute. Remember when you did that thing? Remember when you cheated on me? And then we got back together and you told me I was your everything and that you learned that you couldn't live without me? You're more likely to be faced with, oh, seriously? You're bringing that affair up again? Come on, you're never going to let me live that down. I made one little mistake and I'm a terrible person. I am so sick of how you treat me. I have broken my back proving my love to you. And this is all I get in return is you still bringing that up? And you realize that here we are again. And the horrifying feeling is, do they have to have another affair so we can get back to a good moment where they realize what they have with me? Nobody wants to feel like that. They don't realize what they have with you, and they won't, nor do they realize what they had with whomever they cheated with, nor will they realize what they have with the next person or the person after that, nor do they realize what they had with the person before you. Because that means them actually being connected to, valuing, and viewing the other person in the relationship as a separate human being to be loved, cherished, valued, empathized with, felt compassion for, respected, treated as an equal and as a partner in life. And that is not what happens in these relationships. Sadly, the infidelity hoover, which often happens at a terrible time for you when you're still walking through the haze of betrayal and a broken heart, can infuse another wave of hope into the relationship that can tee you up for yet another round of neglect and devaluation, and this time around even more shame because you'll blame yourself for going back. Is there always a hoover after infidelity? No, and that can often raise its own issues and hurt for people. Sometimes the narcissistic person leaves you and takes up with the new person, which can feel devastating. And no, you don't feel like you dodged a bullet, but rather that you were not enough. It'll take time for you to realize it's going to be the same story again. Sometimes you break up, and perhaps the shame and responsibility of a relationship they don't want to face means that they don't reach back in and hoover you. I know it doesn't seem like a blessing at the time, and it won't feel like one for a while, but in the long term, when this happens, when they don't hoover, it'll be a more painful path early on, but then you'll get more resolution, and you don't forestall the grief and healing. You have to take it on headlong. But honestly, I also know that some people also never quite come back after a narcissistic person leaves them. The trauma-bonded stuff gets that stuck. And in those cases, therapy with someone who gets this becomes absolutely essential. Sometimes when we get what we wish for, it isn't a happy ending. Make your happily ever after about you and de-link it from the narcissistic person's selfishness. The infidelity hoover is a fantasy that lots of stories and movies have taught us. It rarely ends well. It could be a moment of excitement, that love bomb 2.0, but I can all but guarantee you that when that happens, it's actually not love bomb 2.0, but you're setting yourself up for devaluation 2.0, but this time there'll be a big fat shame cherry on top. Good luck. I'm sorry you went through this, and thanks again.